Hi there. I'd like to welcome you to our October safety meeting. This presentation has been recorded for school bus drivers at Beach Transportation as part of their ongoing annual training. This month, we're going to talk about two very important topics. One is one of the hardest things we do, and that's managing the students on our bus. And the second thing is the thing we have to do that makes those students as safe as possible, and that's loading and unloading. So I'd like to get started and I'll share my screen with you. Maybe. There we go. Okay. Student driver interactions inside and outside the bus. So we're going to talk about expectations, working relationships, tools, loading and unloading. Okay, we're going to get started with a very difficult job. So student management can be the hardest part of your job. Think of your day. Sometimes driving is the hardest, but oftentimes managing 20 to 40 students on your bus can be one of the hardest parts of your day. And rightly so, because undisciplined students are unsafe and they can cause unsafe situations for you, the driver, but also for the other students. I want you to think about one thing you do that works to reduce behavior problems. One thing you do that reduces behavior problems. Okay, we're going to go into a lot of different tools and resources as we get going here. But somehow we have to reach our bus expectations. You've got a group of kids. This group does not have seat belts. You can see they're kind of out in the aisle. But what do you expect from your kids? You've got to first have expectations. What can they expect from you? First of all, you need to be on time. You need to be fair. You need to keep them safe. And they need to know that you will enforce the rules on the bus. And then you need to talk to them about what you expect from them. And that's to follow the bus rules. They need to stay in their seat, use inside voices, and keep their hands to themselves. And those seem like pretty straightforward expectations, but with the students that we have, age-wise, sometimes those can be really hard. As a driver, you set the expectation. You're the example. And many students don't have that example in their home. More and more families have become the non-traditional family with a mom and a dad. Many of our students don't have both adults at home. And when they do, because of our economy, it's hard for those adults to be at home interacting with the kids as much as they may have in the past. So please be the example and be the adult. One of the most important things we adults can do for young children is to model the kind of person we would like them to be. So think about how you like people to be around you. Loud, obnoxious, rude, disrespectful? Probably not. So we want to model good behavior. So respect is a very difficult thing to earn, and it can go away really quickly. So To earn respect, you need to be confident in your job. Be polite, be responsible, be respectful, be safe, and be in control of yourself, your emotions, your reactions. Which means talk, don't yell. And me, with my little scratchy voice, I have to project that voice, and it can get kind of loud at times. But it's not yelling, it's projecting. There's a difference. Use their name, and you wonder, why does that show respect? It shows them that you have taken the time to learn something about them, their name. Names are important. They're one of the best tools you have when you're managing your bus. Maintain your cool in all situations. Anger, frustration, impatience will lose respect. It's okay to be human, but there's going to be a cost if you lose that self-control. And that cost is going to be a loss of respect. Okay, rapport is a working relationship. So we're going to try to connect on a human level. And these are little humans. They don't think the same way. They don't act the same way. They don't understand the same way. They haven't had the same life experience. But we can connect with them on a human level. Ask questions about them. Take a personal interest. Make eye contact. One thing that I've seen and have felt sometimes that I wanted to do was ignore the bad or the more hostile environment. If you have some kids that are really boisterous in the back, and maybe they're middle school and they're a little hard to handle, sometimes you feel like you should just ignore them. Maybe they'll go away. But what the message you're sending them is I can't handle you. You scare me. And maybe they do. Maybe they do scare you. But if you ignore it, it's going to get a lot worse. Connecting sometimes helps when you pay a compliment. Notice something about them, something like their shoes, their clothing, a team shirt, an instrument that they're carrying, an art project they bring in. Make a connection. And then be the leader, be the example. Don't be their peer. There are going to be times when you get frustrated, times when things are just so out of control that it feels overwhelming. So what are some things that you can do to calm yourself down? Count to 3, maybe 10, count to 10, breathe, and take a second to think about what you're going to say next, or what you're going to say, or how you're going to interact with this group of kids. You've got to understand, to protect yourself, that they all have cameras. They're not afraid to use them. They know right how to push the video button and get things recorded, and they will. And then before you get back to the office, they're going to post that video. You have to remember that students don't always give accurate reports. Their view of something oftentimes gets distorted. If you touch a child to turn them, they're going to say that you grabbed them and you threw them into the seat. It's not always accurate. I think it's a self-preservation thing. They don't want to get in trouble, so they make it or sway the situation to where the adult was the bad person. So just be careful on how you react. We want actions, not bad reactions. So we're going to go over a few tools that you can use, practice, and see what works for you. Like I said, one of the best things that you can do on your bus is to learn the students' names. That can be very hard if you have 40 kids on your bus, but learn one name at a time. One of the best ways that I found was to write down the student's name at the bus stop. And if you've got 10 or 20 kids, that's going to be difficult at one bus stop. I substituted on a bus last Friday with 31 kids getting off at one stop. That's a lot of names to learn, but one name at a time. So names are powerful. Instead of saying, hey, you at the back of the bus, hey, you in the blue coat, you can say, hey, Simon. And Simon is going to reach out and it's going to grab Simon by his mental capacity and it's going to say, hey, that's me. It's a lot more powerful than saying to a broad audience, hey, you. How do you learn names? What are some ways that you have found work for you? Like I said, I wrote those names at their bus stops, and then I just had to learn 3 names at this bus stop and 2 names at the next bus stop. And pretty soon I had the entire bus learned. Okay. Some things that you can do to encourage good behavior is to reward good behavior. And that doesn't mean going out and buying a bunch of stuff to give to them. Verbal praise is very powerful. Catch them doing good things and say something like, Simon, hey, thanks for letting them out first. Thanks for not pushing. Simon, thanks for putting your seatbelt on today. You did a great job. Especially those things that they're having a hard time with. If you can catch them doing a positive thing, saying something is very rewarding for them. Allow seating choices for good behavior, maybe once during your week instead of having assigned seats. If the bus has been good all week, maybe they can have their choice of seats on Friday afternoon. Speaking of seating, we encourage, well, all of our minibuses are to have assigned seating. We strongly encourage seating charts for kindergarten through 5th grade and middle school. It's probably not necessary and probably not going to be very effective for high school. So how do you make a seating chart? We have diagrams in our office that you can come get and put seats, names to seats. The students have been in school now for about a month, well, just over a month. They're sitting pretty much in the same spots, and that could be a place that you start if you haven't assigned seats yet. Start with where they are now. Kindergarten through 5th grade, you probably are going to need some help with that. Usually there's quite a few of them. Middle school kids, maybe you might get some help from teachers or administrators, somebody from the office that has time to ride with you. But put together a seating chart and then have them sit in that seat every single time. The beauty of that is if it's not working, if you've got a couple of kids that are not interacting well together, you can separate them, change your seating chart. It reduces chaos. They don't, especially with the little people, they get on, they're looking for where they're supposed to sit. They sit in this seat and they decide they don't like that one, so they move. And you're sitting in the middle of 3rd Street and traffic's building up, and this little 1st grader's trying to find where they want to sit today. If they have a seating chart, they know right where to go. It just reduces the chaos of loading, especially. It helps you learn names. Maybe that's a way you're going to learn names is by where they sit. Okay, it promotes accountability. If you have a seat that's all has an indelible marker on it, and you have a seating chart, you know who wrote on the seat. You know who ate crackers or popcorn or sunflower seeds because it's in the seat that they were sitting in. Their assigned seats. Okay, seating. K through 5 or K through 3 up to 5th grade. Sometimes if you don't have a seating chart, this is an option. Seat the K through 3 from front to back as they get on the bus. 2 to a seat, 2 boys, 2 girls. At this age, you don't want to mix boys and girls. So as they come in the bus, if you don't choose to have a seating chart, but I would strongly encourage it, seat them front to back. So 2 girls in the right, 2 girls on the left, 2 boys on the right, 2 girls as you go back. And you're going to stand in the aisle and block them physically and seat them as they get on the bus. And that's only in the afternoon. You're not going to do that when you're picking them up in the morning, stopped in the middle of a big, busy street. Separating the 6th, 7th, and 8th graders for middle school sometimes is very helpful. You can put the 6th graders in the front, the 7th graders in the middle, the 8th graders in the back. Those 8th graders feel like they earn the right to sit in the back, but they can lose that right and maybe bring the whole group of 8th graders to the front because they are not behaving in the way that they need to. I'd like to encourage you to have the back seats empty. We started this several years ago because there was a bus accident where a big dump truck ran into the back of the school bus and it crushed the children in the 2 back seats. So we decided that we would, if we were not loaded to capacity, if we didn't have every seat filled, we would leave the back seats open. In doing this, we found that behavior was better when they weren't seated in those back seats. So it was a bonus. It was safer for the students, and it was better for student behavior. So some of the ways that people have blocked off the back seats are tip them up, put a note on the seat that says no seating in the back seats, and verbally let them know that we're not seating kids in the back seats. If you are full, you will have to use the back seats. But if you're not full, keep them open. A lot of drivers like to leave the front right seat designated for bad behavior students. So it's like the penalty box in, say, hockey. Okay. When a student misbehaves, you can bring them to the front. They can sit in the front seat for a certain amount of time. And what I did to make them take the responsibility is I would decide how long they were going to stay in the front. Usually it was 3 or 4 days. And then at the end of that time period, I visit with them and say, you've sat in front for 4 days because you were really loud and noisy and you're grabbing people's backpacks and throwing them around. You've stayed up here 4 days. Are you ready to go back to your regular seat? And they're, of course, going to say yes. They don't usually want to sit up front with you. And at that point, when they say yes, they want to go back to their seat, I ask them, so what do you need to do when you go back to your seat that's going to allow you to stay back there? And I'm going to have to not throw backpacks. Okay. And then you say, well, what happens if you do, throw backpacks or are very disruptive in the back? Then I'm going to have to come and sit in the front. Okay. Have them interact with you and take responsibility for their previous actions, and then commit to going back and having better behavior. It makes it more effective. You don't see them back up in front as often. Now, sometimes you have a student that needs to sit up front all the time. And maybe that's not going to be your front right seat. Maybe it's going to be the second seat. Because seriously, honestly, you really maybe don't want them right next to you. And I never put them behind me because then they're just doubly annoying. But maybe the second seat or the third seat, but they're up where you can monitor behavior a little better. All right. If you have a school bus attendant, and we don't have very many of those this year, there's only 4 big bus attendants. But if you do have an attendant, use your attendant. They should manage the students. Express the needs that you have for driving and ask for their help. If things are too noisy all the time and it's really distracting to your driving, maybe they can help with that. But let them know what problems you're having as a driver, keeping your focus on the road. Reinforce their actions. They may not do things the exact way you would, but you're not back there. Let them do their job in the way that they can do it. Now, if they're not doing anything, that's not their job. So we do need you to let us know if your attendants are not interacting with the kids and helping with managing their behavior. Okay, when you're managing your students, you have to pick your battles. What I mean by that is if there's a foot or a leg in the aisle, that doesn't mean that it's a national, it's not a felony, it's not a serious thing. Some drivers, it really bothers, but it's just a little thing if their foot or their leg is in the aisle, okay? If they're reaching across the aisle, it's maybe not a huge deal. If their whole body is out in the aisle and they're reaching across, it might be a big deal, but arms and a foot or a leg is not a federal offense, okay? Fingers on the open window ledge. If they have fingers outside in the air, it's probably not a huge deal. If their arm is out, it's a different situation. If their head's out, if they're throwing things out. Okay. A sense of humor really helps with managing your students. Sometimes when I'm subbing on a bus and the kids start roughhousing and wrestling, I shut it down right away, but I do it kind of with a little bit of humor. I might say something like, okay, knock it off back there. We don't want any blood, no guts, no nothing. We don't want to call an ambulance. Quit roughhousing back there. Blow it way out of proportion, but in a humorous way so that they don't feel like you're the big bad guy, but you have an expectation of them being less boisterous and wrestling in the bus, okay? Your students are people too, and they make mistakes. They're not small adults. They are children. Even your middle school and high school kids are not yet adults. The high schoolers might think they're adults, or close to adults, but they don't have the reasoning skills, the experiences, the life experiences that adults have. So please give them a little bit of grace. Small things and honest mistakes don't require large, overblown reactions. Okay, seatbelts. If you have seatbelts on your bus, you are a lucky person. And I say that because I've driven with seatbelts and I've driven buses without seatbelts. And there is a difference if the students are in their seatbelts. So as they get on in the morning, your responsibility is to, one, greet them. Good morning, Marvin. How are you today? Oh, good. Have a seat, get your seatbelt on, and then you go to the next stop. As bus drivers, we can't stop in the middle of the road with our overhead red lights going and get up and go back and check on every student. We can't get up and put a kid in their car seat. We can't. It's just not a safe situation. For one, you're leaving a running bus in the middle of a busy street. And two, you're out of your seat with traffic all around you, and it's just not a safe situation. Okay, so as they get on in the bus, you're going to greet them and you're just going to remind them to put their seatbelts on. Most of the time, mornings are not a problem. In the afternoon, however, it's going to be best, and I always go 2 minutes before it's leave time. And I stand up and I turn my bus on so that the camera records me saying, all right, folks, it's a couple minutes before it's time to go. Need you to put your seatbelts on. Does anybody need help putting their seatbelts on? And of course, most of the older kids are not going to need help. And then I walk through the bus, and 2 minutes before departure time is usually plenty. Okay, then you're going to sit down. This is your responsibility. This is not an option. This is company policy that wants you to enforce the seatbelt rules. Okay, so what happens when you walk through the bus? Everybody's got their seatbelts on, and before you get to the front of the bus, half of them have them unlatched and they're not in a safe position. It's a good question, but if you walk through or if you stand at the front with your high schoolers and have them put their seatbelts on, that helps with your liability. At that point, they take the responsibility of unbuckling. It's on them, and they're on camera. Okay. So what happens if you're going down the road and there's kids standing up in the back, they're changing seats? At that point, they're not wearing their seatbelts. If it was me, I'd be pulling over and saying, we put on our seatbelts and you can't have your seatbelts on because you're going from seat to seat, and put them back in their seatbelts. Those students who refuse to put on a seatbelt or keep a seatbelt on need to be written up. If you're still at the school, have one of the administrators or noon duty aides or playground aides come out onto the bus. We can call and have the principal come on. But, having seatbelts on the bus is if I guess the state law is if the vehicle is equipped with seatbelts, They need to be worn properly. Okay. This is your responsibility. Remind them as they enter, walk through before you leave the school. Thank them for putting their seatbelts on. Write them up for unbuckling. Have a school authority help you. So those of you who go to Teach Academy and have students who don't understand English very well, sometimes have a little bit of a problem. So I would load your students as they get on the bus. First seat they come to, boys, boys, girls, girls, like we talked about earlier. The little kids in the front, the older kids toward the middle. And if you don't have to, I wouldn't let them go toward the back. I'd keep them all in the front half. Or have a seating chart so that they know where to go and sit, and have them sit there every day. We're not having as big of an issue with Teach Academy this year. We don't seem to have as many older students that we had last year that were a little bit of a problem. Okay. Have the school staff help you with any students that are using the excuse that they don't understand. One of the biggest problems we have is older kids' mouths, what comes out of their mouths, swearing, disrespect, inappropriate topics like shooting, killing, sex, drugs, those types of things. Their mouths can be very offensive. So, first of all, bring it to their attention that they are sharing all of this stuff with the whole bus, and it's not okay. If they want to talk quietly with their friends, it needs to be appropriate conversations. Sometimes there's casual offenders. We had a busload of kids a couple of years ago, I guess it's been quite a few years ago, that lived in an area of town that was lower economically. They had very few parents at home when they got home. The kids had very foul language, but it wasn't used with anger. It was used because it was their conversation. And there were F-bombs throughout every sentence. And the driver, who was so wise and just really good at managing that group of kids, would say, okay, folks, you've used your quota of the F-bomb today. Could you find another word for the rest of the bus ride? And instead of yelling, screaming, telling them how awful they were, he used humor to let them know that the expectation was to not use that F-bomb. And they would go out of their way to use goofy words instead of it. They were very conscious of it. But I was impressed with how the driver handled that, because he didn't create animosity. He just used humor to correct a situation that was offensive. With the hard cases who are belligerent, that are angry, that are know-it-all, those are hard cases, and we need to have zero tolerance with it. You need to address it and let them know that you're going to have to write them up and get the school involved with that. A conduct report or a I don't remember what they call them anymore. Conduct report is what I've always, a bus discipline referral, a BDR, is what you need to work with. So fill one of those out with the students. Okay, extreme behavior, attitude, refusal to behave, belligerence. Use the aide at the school to help you. We can't kick them off the bus just in the middle of the bus route. If they have no supervision, we can't just dump them off on the side of the road. If you're close to the school, you can go back to the school. But if you're away from the school, don't go back to the school. It's just going to prolong it. Get them home and then just write them up. If there's a fight on your bus in the middle of your bus route, call the office and have an officer come to your bus. Sometimes you've got to take extreme consequences to correct extreme behavior, but we can't just stop the bus and kick them off. Okay, so I guess if you're shortly away from the school, return to the school, ask for a supervisor to come. If you're almost home, get them home, write them up. Okay, work with Wayne to remove them from the bus until they can change their behavior. You don't have to continually transport extreme behavior. This might take a little time. The school district sometimes wants those students on the bus because they don't have transportation. But if it's extreme behavior, that makes it to where the bus is not safe, and those students are going to have to find another way to school. Keep writing them up. So writing them up, don't confront them, just write them up. So the rules are on the bus to keep everybody safe. There have to be consequences for breaking the rules. It's their choice whether they obey the rule or if they choose not to, but you have to enforce the consequences. Those consequences might be they come and sit up front. Their consequence might be written up on a bus referral form. That consequence might escalate into them being removed from the bus for a period of time. Okay. So write-ups. You, as the driver, need to manage trivial behavior like chewing gum on the bus, eating on the bus, talking too much. Don't take Wayne a conduct report or a referral form because the kid chews gum on the bus every day. That's something you should handle. A lot of what goes on your bus can be taken care of if you get on it quickly and immediately. If the students know what your expectations are and that you're going to enforce those expectations, they're going to be a lot more responsive to what you do on that bus and what you expect. Don't let behavior go until you can't stand it and then demand they get taken off the bus. When it first happens, take action. If it happens again, use a referral report. If it happens again, use a referral report until that student has a consequence that influences their bad behavior. Don't just threaten. If they need to be written up, follow through. An empty threat makes it to where your bus is going to lose control because everybody's going to know that you don't enforce the consequences. Some of you are going to say, well, if I write them up on a referral form, nobody's going to do anything about it. Well, I want you to know that Wayne does a really good job trying to get the principals to react. So please continue to write them up. We will be behind you if you will do the best that you can. One warning that I have for you as drivers is you can't sit in the front seat and just drive the bus. You have to interact with your students. You have to manage their behavior immediately and not pick and choose the days or the behaviors. The students need to know that there are parameters on their behavior. And once they cross that boundary or parameter, there's a consequence. If they know that, they're much less likely to push that containment or that your tolerance. They're gonna be more conformative to what your expectations are. And how to write them up in ink. On your explanation describing the event, you should say, I have talked to Billy several times about XYZ. Or today Billy did XYZ on the bus. You're going to state the facts. Give specific examples using the facts and leave out your opinion. We've had drivers write on a referral form things like, I think that this kid is so bad that I think he needs to go to a group home. He needs to go, he should be put in jail. I think this kid has mental illness and he is just way out of control. Leave your opinions out of it, please. Just state what happened, the facts of the misbehavior. Don't write a novel. Keep it short and to the facts. Here's a referral form. Student's name, the school, the date, and then this says bus driver or attendant. That just means you put your name in here. Don't circle bus driver or attendant. Put your name in here, whoever fills it out. The bus number, AM route, PM route, student's grade. Is it a minor incident? Is it a major incident? Is it a reoccurring incident? Describe what happened. Write down what actions you have taken. Check any of these boxes that apply, or write any other action that you've taken, and then get it into Wayne. Okay, things to avoid in managing your students. Don't manage your students with the bus. And by that, I mean, if there's a student standing up, we don't slam on the brakes or brake check to make that student fall over so we can say, see, that's what's going to happen. For one, it's not safe. You want them to sit down because it's the safest way to travel on the bus. When they stand up and you decide you're going to slam on the brakes to show them what's going to happen, you're not worried about their safety anymore. You're worried about the control and that they're disobeying the rules, and that's what you're angry about. You're not thinking about their safety. So please don't brake check or slam on the brakes to manage your kids. One thing we do that we want to avoid is speak before we think. We react rather than taking action. We talk or we react with emotion, and it doesn't solve the problem with a logical thought or a management tool. We shouldn't allow anger or frustration into our management. That's emotion. Like I said previously, if there's a problem, you go back and you address the problem, but you don't buy into the conflict. You state the fact, I really need you to sit down. It's not safe. Well, I had to get up to go over to help somebody. I'm sorry, it's not safe. I need you to sit down. Well, they're not sitting down. Nobody's sitting down back here. I need you to sit down so you can be safe on the bus. So if I play into the excuses, it's just going to spiral out of control. At the end of it, if there's no response, if it just keeps being an excuse, you just say, well, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to write you up if you don't sit down. And then you wait. And if they don't sit down, you turn, you go to the front of the bus, and you note that they're going to get written up. And then you write them up. Okay. We can't restrain a student in any way. Restraining could be grabbing their arm, grabbing their coat, putting your arm across the aisle in front of them. Could be interpreted as restraining. So we can't do that. You can only verbally talk to them. And don't touch a student during discipline or to be friendly. Let's talk about discipline first. You can't go to a student and grab them and sit them down in the seat. You can't grab them as they're going out the door because you want to talk to them. We can't, you can't touch a student. Even being friendly is just going to get you in trouble. So just keep your hands to yourselves. Don't shake your fingers at them. As far as touching, to be friendly, high fives, knocks, that's the extent. No hugs. And there are going to be little people who come up and hug you. It's just some of them do. Just don't initiate it, and don't hug back. A little pat on the back is great, but no arms around them, no kids in your lap, those types of things. Okay. Managing your students is one of the most difficult things that you do on your bus, as far as trying to drive and keep things in order. We've given you a few skills and a few tools to use. If you have issues or need suggestions, come and talk to either Wayne or myself, and we can try and give you some help. But ultimately, you need to manage your students. You can't just drive the bus and not manage your students. Wayne can't do it for you. Carlin can't do it for you. I can't do it for you. It's got to be the way you discipline, the way you manage. We face many challenges, and students have to be given expectations and boundaries. Your rules, your expectations. You need to give and gain respect and display a good attitude. Please handle problems as an adult with patience, humor, and a firm hand, and consistency. Any comments, questions, issues? If you have any comments or questions or issues with your bus, please come in and talk to either Wayne or myself. Okay, we're going to talk here for a little bit about loading and unloading, which is one of our most critical actions that we have on the bus. Can you look at this picture and tell me what might be a problem with this little person getting off the bus? Well, for one, he's jumping from the stairs down to the ground, which is not a safe thing. He should be using the handrail as he walks one step at a time down the bus stairs. When they jump off the bus like this, they can fall, they can hurt themselves, they can catch something on the handrails, which would make it to where they were hurt. This is just not a safe thing. The most important and safety critical part of a bus driver's job is loading and unloading students. Safety procedures need to be followed exactly and consistently to make the procedure as safe as possible. So I want you to go into this, just a little review of what you need to do to pick up and drop off students safely, and look at parts of the procedure that you are taking shortcuts on. And then I want you to correct those shortcuts to be back in to the regular procedure. Okay, reviewing, unloading, and loading. As you approach the stop, you're going to activate the overhead lights, not the hazard lights, but the overhead lights. They'll be amber as you push the button, and they turn red when you stop and open the door. These amber lights that go on first warn traffic that you're going to stop and pick up or drop off students. As you approach the stop, you're going to slow down. You're going to look around for any hazards. Are there cars coming towards you? Are there cars piled up behind you that might want to pass? Where are the students? Are they lined up? Are they scattered all over? Are they in the road? Are they too close to the edge of the road? Approaching the stop is the time your eyes should be very busy. Okay, are there other people or pets at the bus stop that you need to worry about? Watch. Are the cars around you stopping? Then you're going to stop and secure the bus. You're going to put the parking brake on. That reduces the possibility of the bus moving, and it helps secure the bus if it's hit from behind. So you're putting the bus in neutral, you're putting the parking brake on. That secures the bus. Then focus your attention not on what's happening inside the bus. Avoid any internal distractions, kids yelling, kids fighting, kids whatever they're doing in the middle of the aisle. Avoid that until you get the students loaded or unloaded. Avoid any external distractions. What's going on outside that detracts from keeping track of those students? Check the danger zone. Are they crossing in front of the bridge? Are they by the doorway? Have they slipped under your bus if it's icy? Count them as they get on. Make sure that you have the right number and count them as they get off. Double check your mirrors before you move the bus. These crossover mirrors in front, check the front of your bus to make sure no little person, dog, sibling, parent is in front of the bus before you move. If you get to a stop and no one is loading at that stop, there's nobody there today, slow down. If you don't see the student, go slow, look around. Then you can stop, or you can cancel your overheads and go slow. Be watchful for the students until you're well past the point of pickup. A lot of drivers stop and just open that door, look around. If there's nobody, they close the door. Okay, you are the teacher on the bus. That's another part of your job. Put on your teacher hat. Teach them to wait in a safe spot. Look at this picture and tell me or think, are these students in a safe spot? I would say no. At this point, they're on the edge of the curb. They're right next to the road. If a car comes around there and is not watchful, it could clip one of them. They're too close to the edge of the road. They need to be, I would have them line up single file. They can't get on the bus this way. They're all going to force their way into the door. I would have them line up at this bus stop single file. and I would have the first person at least 5 big steps away from the curb until you stop the bus. This is not a safe spot. Okay? They shouldn't approach the bus until your door opens. They don't know that from birth. It's not taught in school. It's something you have to teach them and then reinforce. So what do you do if you pull up to the stop, and as you pull up, the 2 kids that are there run up to the bus? Well, that day you're going to tell them, you don't come up to the bus till the doors open. Stay still. Then the next day, as you approach, if they start moving, you stop the bus back where you are, and they're going to try to come to you, motion them back to where they're supposed to be, and then move up to them. And then again, emphasize that they need to stay still until you open the door. It's going to take a little training with your younger kids. Okay, they should know what they should do if they drop something by the bus. If this kid drops his backpack and maybe you pull up a little far, the kids are lined up, and he drops his backpack back here, he shouldn't bend down to get it before he comes and talks to you. If he bends down and you just don't even see him, you could easily run over him as he, goes to retrieve his backpack. But they don't know that. Talk to them about that. They should watch for your signal before they cross in front of the bus. This is really hard to do with your older kids, but it's a necessary thing. If kids cross the street and don't know your warning signals by honking the horn, if they don't know if a car is coming, they could get hit by a car that passes you very easily. Okay, do they know what the danger signal is when they're crossing in front of the bus? And that should be honking your horn. What does honking the horn mean when they're crossing in front of your bus? It doesn't mean hurry up and get across the road. It means go back to the side of the road you started from. If they hurry when you honk the horn, they're going to run right into that car that's passing you on the left. They need to get back to where they were, where it's safe. Okay, education's for students that cross. We covered some of that. Students should stop and make eye contact with you before they cross. Make sure they know what your signals are. We try to use a thumbs up. This tends to make this waving your hand to have the kids go across has oftentimes made the cars facing you think they can go. Thumbs up is a better option. Remind them to focus on you, not their parents who are on the other side of the road. Sometimes you have to educate the parents too, because they don't know how you're supposed to act around a bus to be safe. Students should not wear earbuds, etc. while crossing because they can't hear you. They don't focus. Take them off for just a sec. They should only cross the road in front of you when they're crossing. Sometimes we have riders that wait until the bus starts to leave and then they cross behind you. And at that point, oncoming traffic can't see them. It's hard to show you on this video, but think about a student who gets off on the right side of your bus. Okay, you start to pull away, and as you do, they cross behind you. And at that point, a car comes toward you in the bus. They can't see the student who's crossing behind the bus until they step out from behind the bus, and then they're in the lane that's going to hit them. Mountain Line, our city bus line, has its riders cross behind the buses. And this could very easily confuse your students. During the summer, they are able to ride those buses, all over town free of charge. And they get used to crossing behind. But it's a very, very dangerous practice for our students. So only allow them to cross in front of the bus. In the school zone can be a very congested area. So please try to arrive in the afternoon when you're picking up students, arrive before the students are out of school. Sometimes that's not possible. Our routes are really tight in some of those areas. But if you can, arrive before the students come out so that they're not moving around your bus when your bus is moving. Okay? Never back up in a school zone unless absolutely necessary. And if you have to back up, please use a spotter. That means if you're the third bus in line to line up at a school and you get there early, you need to stay back far enough that two buses can get in front of you without backing up. Don't force the buses ahead of you to have to squeeze in so tight that they feel they need to back up. And then if you're behind a bus at a school and they're unloading or they're doing something on their bus, don't pass that bus ahead of you. Don't back up to get around them. Just sit there patiently and wait till things clear up, and then you can follow them out. So never back up in a school zone. Let's just leave it at that. And then as you're pulling out from a school zone, wait until all the people around you have cleared your danger zone before you move. That means watching your tail swing for those students or parents that are on the sidewalk next to your bus. So here's a few reminders about students. Remember that students can be unpredictable. Ever seen that? Unpredictable. They do goofy, strange things that you would never think of. Like putting a pop can under the tire after they get off to see what will happen when the bus runs over it. They always trust that everything's going to be just fine. You're going to protect them. They're safe around the bus. Parents think this too. If they're late, they might chase after the bus thinking you'll see them, you'll stop, everything will be fine. I've found that when I'm driving, after I pick up all the kids, I'm on to the next bus stop and I'm not looking in my mirrors for what's behind me. They could linger in the danger zone to high-five a buddy, to get the mail from their mailbox, to pick up something they dropped, or they could fall down in the danger zone and you may not be able to see them. So try to keep track of all your students. That's why it's important to count and then count them away as they get away from your bus before you move. They might run back to the bus to get something they forgot, or to high-five a buddy, or to just get attention from their peers. And here's one that's, a good reminder. They may not follow your directions. I just don't know why they don't do that, but they may not. That's why we talked about the first part of this instruction. As you're picking up and dropping off, please resist the temptation to rush. And that doesn't mean speed, but it means to try to hurry, to make up time, to make your route a little shorter so you can get somewhere. That's rushing. Please take one bus stop at a time. Make sure each bus stop is safe. Use focus and concentration. Don't let things distract you from loading those kids safely and unloading them and getting them away from the bus. If you miss a bus stop, don't back up. Go around the block, but don't back up, especially in the middle of the street. If you're late, don't try to make up time. That's where that rushing gets in. Substitutes, you need to take extra care. Loading and unloading for a substitute is extra hard. We often don't know where the stops are for sure. We don't have those landmarks memorized. We don't know how many kids are at the stop. We don't know the behavior of the kids. We don't know that they stand behind the mailbox or behind the bush. It's very easy to miss students. It's easy to be focused on the route sheet rather than focused on the students as they get on or as they get off. So substitutes, please take extra caution in this very critical part of a bus driver's job. Take the time, all of you as drivers, me included, take the time to be careful and be aware. One thing you need to be extra watchful is approaching motorists. Always assume that the car heading towards you will not stop. Always assume. So you can put your stop sign out, you can load the kids, but if this was a driver that was still moving, I wouldn't let the kids out until I knew this car was stopped. When possible, let them go past you before you activate the overhead red lights. So if this car is coming towards you and I have my amber lights flashing back and forth, and I'm going to drop kids off, I wouldn't stop and open the door until this car went by. That just makes it to where they're not trying to get past you at the last minute. They're not going to claim they didn't see you and go past you anyway. Just makes the whole situation a lot safer if the car is not there. Let them go past. Keep the students on the bus until all the traffic has stopped around you. Keep checking the traffic so they're not inching out around you. The ones on the side streets aren't coming and turning past you. Watch for bikes. I know this says motorist. The e-bikes and the scooters, they tend to think that they can go past a school bus. 2 years ago, we had a bike run into a student that was unloading off a bus. Controlling other drivers. Here's that signal we give other drivers when we're frustrated with their behavior. Here's the reality, is you can't control the unsafe behavior of other drivers. Yes, you can express your frustration, but ultimately we can't control their unsafe behavior. Please teach your students that when you honk your horn while they're crossing, they need to go back to the side of the road they started from. That will protect them if you have other drivers running your reds while you have students crossing. If they run your reds, we have a form you can fill out that we send to the police department or to the highway patrol if you're on a rural route. Please fill this out as much as possible. You have to have the car's license plate number, which is hard to get. You have to have a description of the person, male, female, hair color, estimate their age. And then you need to give a little description. And on the back of this form, you need to draw a diagram of what happened. This is the street. This is the street. Where was your bus? Was it right here? You were unloading and that car came across through the intersection and passed you? Or did they come from behind you and pass you from behind? Or did they come from your right and come around you from the curb or the corner? Either way, please draw a little diagram of where the bus is or was and where the vehicle was and which direction they were heading. Driver responsibility. Please be alert. Follow those loading and unloading procedures every single time. Please educate your students and refresh what they are supposed to know. Remind them. And be prepared to protect the students from passing motorists by, 1, honking your horn so the students come back, and 2, holding them in the bus so they don't get out of the bus until you're sure traffic has stopped. Thanks for doing things right. Thanks for keeping our riders safe from their unsafe behavior on the bus, safe from passing motorists, safe from the behavior of other students on the bus. Just thanks for what you do. We appreciate you. We know that at times it can be really frustrating, really difficult. Do the best that you can. Use the tools that you're given. Use the referral form and go out there and be a safe driver. We appreciate what you do. Until next month, fill out your summary sheet for this video, and we'll see you next month.